On this week's show, we'll be looking at Google Notebook. Do I have to say Google Notebook LM? Is that the official
I think
branding?
you do. Is Google Notebook LM.
Google Notebook LM, and talking about whether the future of AI can really exclude people entirely, which is kind of what it seems like it's trying to do.
Actually, I really feel like it's inclusive. I think it's,
We'll talk about it. All right, yeah.
yeah.
It's only been a year of episodes and we don't have ad breaks yet. We got to ramp up our marketing and popularity so
Dude,
we can convince people to pay us to run ads.
dude, we can generate fake AI ads now.
Right.
We can though, right?
I mean, to the purpose of what? Directing people to Venmo us money directly?
Yeah, I'd be like, Kevin's wearing Le Fond de Fay. And if you were interested in this hoodie,
Right, yeah.
it's Le Fond de Fay, but it's not. It's really just from, Marshalls, whatever.
It's
Who fucking cares?
right.
No one's buying it, right?
uh, so today's topic is Google Notebook LM. So how do we want to dig into all of this? What
So
is, I
maybe
guess let's start with just like an
yeah,
overview of what would
what it
you
is.
describe as Google Notebook LM's purpose?
So I think it's for me it's a place to bring multiple data, single or multiple data sources together, and then start curating that and generating generating material from those data sources, right?
To
In
what end? What's your
different
purpose?
formats.
For what who's the person who should come to use this? What outcome are you accomplishing?
Creators, so blog creators, podcast creators, maybe advertisers, right? Teachers,
Okay.
leaders, managers in business and technology. I think
Is it
it's an
trying to
information
synthesize the
studio.
information for you from those multiple sources? Like what are you
Synthesize.
getting out of it? Like what are you so it start with I what's a use case? What's a person goes into Google Notebook LM and clicks create new project. They're uploading things. What are they accomplishing?
Yeah, so let's take a basic use case. I'm a non-technical person who's got a PDF that is technical, right? And I want to understand it, and I have nobody there to explain it to me. So I can bring that PDF in on the technology, and I can start to create different versions of it. I think it definitely we can get into more. I think later in the conversation about the different types of learners, right? But for me, it's like dissecting the information in a series of data sources or a single data source. Yeah, a good example is bring in a really technical PDF about DNA structure, and I think it's the first version of a studio where I honestly believe you can create the explain it like I'm five version of the information, right?
Yes, and I think it's got different options of like, do you want to listen to it? Do you want to watch a video about it? Do you want to
Yeah.
look at flashcards? I will say it's the flashcard thing that I played around with. It created a table. I was like, are you not going to actually create the flashcards for me? But maybe I didn't ask the question in the right way. But yeah, I think it is interesting how it's trying to turn information in one format into something digestible. And I do think that is where a thing that I struggle with in product management, and I think we struggle with just in society in a bunch of places, is people learn differently, right? So you have people who are visual learners, auditory learners, people who need to be experiential and actually do it for themselves. And I think there's value in figuring out how to communicate with people in the way that resonates with them. And so if you're a product manager, one of the things I talk with my PMs about all the time is like, okay, did this not go well because you showed a PowerPoint slide to somebody with 5 bullet points, but you didn't really talk to all 5 bullet points and they're an auditory learner and visually just checked out during your meeting? And so, like, trying to figure out how to get to people in the way that they learn, I think is super interesting. And this does seem to be trying to head in that direction.
Yeah, and for some of the techies listeners, like who are old enough to remember when you used to buy a book like a Rock's book or an O'Reilly book, do you remember like when you were learning object-oriented concepts and they'd use examples like, let's talk about an automobile. Let's talk about the base class of an automobile,
Right.
something all cars have and all cars can do, right? Like is a, has a, and all that kind of stuff. And I always found the examples in those books, I always found that they weren't very useful because I wasn't building automobiles and it wasn't relatable to me.
Right.
But now in a studio, I get the opportunity to say, no, no, no. I don't understand your abstraction there. I don't understand your analogy. Do it again and but make it specific to my business. I'll make it tell me it in a different way, right?
Right.
And I love that ability to recreate it in the like you say, in the digestible way that I like the video version, the flashcards, the mind map. I think mind maps are incredibly good when you can't read the 450-page document, but you want to know an order. So if you want to build a curriculum and say, well, what order should I teach this in, right? Soccer coaching, that's a good one for me. I would take a bunch of PDFs from all the best coaching schools in the world, get them in there, and really start to curate that and reorder it and build my own the best of breed coaching guide from all of that, but in a digestible way where I can say, parents, show your kids this video,
Sure.
right? Because they don't want to read that crap, right? That 12-year-old. But they might watch a video that shows them, and I don't know how good the video would be where it's like,
I think we
hey,
can get into
show me.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Hopefully we get to that place where it's like, oh, I can create like a 3D representation of a person, the mechanics of kicking the ball, right? That's a big one for me as a very, very technical coach. Like it's physics, it's mechanics. I am fine-tuning kids saying, your foot is at the wrong angle. That's
Right.
why the ball keeps hitting you in the face every time you do a kick up. Your foot is too far up like this, it's pointing towards your face. You need to bring it back down again, then the ball will do it. It's just physics, geometry, math, whatever. Being in a studio like that and recreating that information, you'd be hard pressed not to find like the best version for someone and say it still might not be the perfect way to digest this information, but it's better than the original PDF that's 465 pages long,
Sure.
right?
Well, so two things. One, I do want to go back and talk to the person at O'Reilly who picked the covers of those books and just understand why you thought the, shark was the correct animal to put on the HTML book cover jacket. Like those covers of those O'Reilly books never made any sense to me. Like at least the seashell for sequel made sense because Sybase's logo was the perfect golden ratio seashell. Anyways,
The problem I have with the seashell is that as a Unix guy originally, seashell is, it's like bash
right,
and
okay, sure.
seashell. So if there is a book on seashell from O'Reilly, the seashell makes
What
perfect
did they
sense.
pick? Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But I will not stop worrying about the biases that are built into all of this and the hallucinations, right? So you have to appreciate what LLMs are trained on, which is all of human history's writing. And they've done studies to figure out that, like, for most of human history, we didn't talk about non white, non straight, non male people very well. And so a lot of those biases are just baked into the statistical likelihood that the tokens that it should give you are going to be based on the sentence that always talks about, women a certain way or whatever it is. So having this thing, that's always going to be my concern with these LLMs, is that's just a base problem. And then the hallucination problem, it reads through your soccer documentation and for whatever reason tells people that soccer is played on a clay court because it hallucinated and couldn't figure out how to describe the different types of grasses. I don't like there are these problems that I have, which is why a tool like this is really interesting to me as like a supplement to humans, because I don't want you to generate the 5-minute video for the soccer kid without me getting the chance to look at, or you getting the chance to look at the transcript that it's about to try to produce and realize like, oh, you fully misunderstood this chapter on blah blah blah. Let me tweak the words that you're using for the summary. The summary is a helpful start for you, but the tool as it exists today doesn't allow the human being to interject itself and be like, no, 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 wait, let me go and tweak this because you misunderstood it because you're still a stupid autocomplete on steroids. That's my concern with these tools, is people aren't like, I don't know, there's a cool version of this that's helpful. And right now it's well, here's the video for you. Well, great. You're wrong 20% of that video. So how much water did you just gargle to be 20% wrong? That's annoying.
Yeah, so I think that's where you have to think of it in modular terms. Like making a movie is not, they're very rarely a single take. So
I mean, even the movies that are a single take aren't a single take. They
Yeah,
zoom
yeah,
in on the person's back, and that's how they get the transition out. Anyways, yes.
yeah. So I think you have to fix the video and the content in the modular fashion, I would imagine. Because yeah, I totally agree. Like if I'm waiting an hour for my video to be produced and 1 minute of it is like junk,
Right.
it's not possible right now. And as far as I know, in like Notebook LM to go and fix that 1 minute, which is why, similar to when we talk about something like Replit, right? Is do I want it to generate my entire application or am I allowing it to build in pieces, right? Which is kind of how we would build software anyway, right? So I think probably for a while we're stuck in that modular, but I do agree going through and certainly as somebody who's like has a hard time reviewing his own content sometimes,
Sure.
sitting and reading like the AI it sort of feels like a chore, right? Like hey, I outsourced my job to you. Now I have to check your work.
This is my concern in general with all of this AI stuff is like
It's
your
okay.
job as a software developer is now babysitting someone else who's doing the thinking for you. At some point, there's a version of this which is helpful for the teacher, for the product manager, for the coach, for the whoever needs to do this kind of stuff, in which they still have the expertise and they are tweaking and modifying and doing that. But there is a fundamental, like, sure, I guess you saved me the 30 minutes struggling to find the right sentence and the right structure and the right order of things. But now, yes, my job is reviewing someone else's work. That kind of sucks too. So the balancing act of it was helpful. Thank you for doing this outline. I didn't have to do that outline. I could go and grade my kids' homework while you were doing that. But now my job is not. I don't know. It depends on what you're trying to accomplish. To me, half of the creativity of doing some of these things is the creativity. It is the blank page and how am I going to do all of this? And I appreciate for a lot of people, the blank page is terrifying and it is an insurmountable hurdle. And so getting the thing that can get you to that next step, my concern is people aren't going to do the intermediary step, which is the AI is not actually smart enough to get this 100% correct, and you should want it to be 100% correct. So how do we balance
Yeah.
that?
Humanity's not good at QA though, right? We talked about that in the past too. Like processed foods was tested over weeks, months, but really it was generations it should have been tested over, right? We don't have the patience and for
Yeah, but
good quality assurance.
teachers do, software engineers do. You can say those kind of things in aggregate. That's not specifically true about.
Teachers, not all teachers do though, right? Like good teachers. Teachers are like cops, right? Good apples, bad apples. This is the saying: people who can do, people who can't teach, right? I'm
Yeah,
not
those are
picking on all
assholes.
teachers. I'm
No.
just saying, like in my era growing up, Mr. Smith, literally that was his name. He's teaching the most interesting subject like I love that era of the 30s, the 20s and 30s in Europe, and the whole German thing. And how could he make that boring? And he found a way to do that. They're just reading from the book. He's like, dude, you're just reading the book that we have in front of us. Like, get the cute girl at the front to read it. Like, I'll listen to her. I don't want to stare at you for an hour. Like, there's just some bad teachers, right? So this fixes that now. Now I can have it in my no, give her a British accent, make her sound like my mom, make her sound like the girl next door, like whatever. I get it
Your weird
my
mommy
way.
issues. But it's your way without the context. Maybe the problem was he would have been a really great person if he had had PowerPoint slides and the ability to go and create a bunch of visual things, maybe a tool like this helping him find the way to tell the story that makes sense. And I would agree. I think one of the things we should talk about is there are, especially for kids, but everybody has those different ways of learning. And so he shouldn't have to be a visual person in order to help the visual kids learn. But someone needs to be involved making sure that the AI is getting it right. And my challenge I have is setting the Mr. Smiths aside. The Miss Allens, my friend, who was a great teacher until COVID, a bunch of bullshit burned her out. But having her not get to do the interesting creative things feels bad. I don't know. She doesn't want AI to turn off her brain. So, what's the version of this tool that takes her outline and converts it into the video and the audio and the flashcards. Like this is my problem is to your comment earlier, this isn't componentized enough. There are versions of this where if you're Miss Allen, you can start with your outline. You've done all of the hard work putting it all together. And then this is a really cool way to help your visual learners and your auditory learners and your, like there's a version of this tool which helps you as the teacher who's really good get in front of your kids in the right way. And there's a version of this tool which is helping the Mr. Smith who doesn't know how to do any of that, but he needs to read the outline and make sure that it doesn't claim that the Nazis won the war, right? Like
Right,
there's
right, right. So, but that problem's solvable, right? There's a great, I think it's great. There's a children's book. It's written as a children's book, and it talks about real-time streaming data. It's called I think it's called Down the River or Down the Stream.
Yeah, you sent that to me when
Yeah,
you were
I've
trying
seen
to
it a few
teach me the
times
data
at
mesh. Yeah.
work. And I love it because it's just a really cute way of telling, like, hey, you've worked in batch for years and now we're going real time in streams, and you can create a new stream from the river and that's different, and gets consumed by something else. That's still the teacher asking the studio, right? Like, hey, I'm going to create a bunch of material on World War II, but I'm going to tell it as this abstract story that you won't realize is actually about World War II. It could be science fiction. It could be fantasy. And then at the end, you realize, like, or midway through, you realize, like, holy crap, this weird alien is Adolf Hitler, right? Like, that's still there for the teacher. And then you would think a teacher, when they're putting that kind of creativity into it, they're gonna quality check the work. The people who won't are the lazy people who are just relying on external data sources to bring it all together, to do all of that work at a fraction of the time it would have been if they were trying to be creative, right?
Yeah, so what's your like I guess this is where my problem with all of this is
Bad humans. That's
but
bad
that's
humans.
yeah, but that's because all of our incentives and all of our structures are backwards. We spend $600 billion a year on the Department of Defense, and we outspend the rest of the world combined 10x. So what if we outspent the rest of the world 6x? We still ruled the world with an iron fist of military. I mean, we don't really. The seven C's, I think we kind of. Anyways, there's spending priorities in this country and in this world where why are you not paying for all of the creative, interesting people who want to be teachers but can't afford to be a teacher because living on a teacher's salary sucks? Like, our priorities are wrong. I don't need AI to solve all of that. And there are versions of, like, genuinely, I know Hamilton is now cringe because we're not allowed to enjoy things anymore, but music is an amazing way to get people to remember things. People remember lyrics decades later. And if you could have a Hamilton version of all of history and remembering the important parts of the Industrial Revolution is because there's a really impressive, Beyonce song about the Industrial Revolution and it helps you remember all of the key pieces, that'd be amazing. So I think there's a version of something. I don't know that I love AI needing to be involved, but fine, I've lost the battle on AI. There are versions of this which are interesting and help creative people do things at scale and for the masses. But also, I could just hire a million creative people to go and do all of that, and we choose not to as a society. And so
Yeah, but
great. I'm glad that Sam Altman's going to spend $1 trillion on data centers for AI to do that. I could probably accomplish that with $100 billion and people.
yeah, but come on. Recently, in the last year or so, I've been reviewing like the rebranding of a lot of American sports teams. And I know that the shit I'm looking at cost $10 million and took 2 years and 25 supposedly creative people sitting in a room like, we should change the red. And the whole process is just so blown up. It's ridiculous. And then you look at the end product, the logo, and you're like, shit, I could have done that. It's like the LA Kings. Is it the LA Kings, the hockey team?
I mean,
Their logo,
every
their
logo is
logo,
now three random dots and a sans serif font. Like, yes,
like their logo is basically, was it the Chevrolet logo with Los Angeles Kings with some like cheesy lines that make it look like the word Kings is moving. But you know that shit cost millions of dollars. It would have taken you and I an afternoon to build something equivalent. An afternoon. It's so ridiculous, Kevin.
But what you're not see no, because what you're not arguing for is a better product. You're arguing for the same shit but cheaper.
No. I'm
AI
asking,
will
no, 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 no.
AI will
Hang on.
never generate a better logo
No,
than
no,
the
no.
shit that
I'm
comes out of
asking
that.
for AI to give me 15,000 ideas in
It
an
won't.
hour.
It
But it
won't. It
will, it will, it
no.
will, it will. I can go on to AI today and say, create me a brand new Manchester City shirt, but incorporate pieces of Manchester's history into the design of that. And it will do that. And it won't be the end product. It will. I can do it, dude. I've done it on ChatGPT. It'll create me a Man City shirt with a ship and rivers and all kinds of weird stuff where I'd say, not what I'm looking for, but I like where it's going, right? Now create me 20 versions of that. And then the creative person now has the sidekick. Instead of hiring 20 of these guys, the creative person has a sidekick who's working way faster. It's so bloated.
But it's working way faster to produce equally shitty results. I'm sorry, but you're wrong.
But
The
that's fine.
but then what are
Instead
you
of $20
complaining
million,
about?
it
So
cost me $60 and happens in one afternoon instead of like a whole year. This marketing team is sitting down and designing this Chevrolet looking logo.
you're the problem with this argument is it is focusing on specific scenarios that have always been dumb and bad. Go watch Mad Men. I mean, you'll skip 10 through it, but like advertising and branding and all of this kind of stuff, there have been situations that have been interesting and unique, but for the most part, it's not everything in branding and advertising for the past decade has gotten stupid because human beings and everything is the same. But okay, fine. So we're willing to say as a culture we should stop spending $20 million on sports team and branding exercises and instead spend it on AI to like, I guess my problem is you're not solving the actual problem. Doing that doesn't make kids learn any better. So I guess my problem is taking examples that are well known and public and a thing that everyone can recognize and pile on and be like, yeah, branding's so terrible. Every logo today sucks. You're not wrong. I wish everything about capitalism and marketing was better, but you're not actually addressing anything about the root causes. And the root causes of a bunch of problems are there are a ton of creative people out there who don't get the opportunities, who don't get to go and do interesting, unique things. AI is not solving that either. AI is just saying, well, shouldn't we convince, the LA Kings not to spend $20 million on an ad agency and get a person to do it for $60? I mean, I guess, but
I,
what?
I
Okay.
disagree though. It's like I was talking to a friend earlier today and she's not a musician, but she was able to generate a song. In the middle of the night, she woke up and she was like, I have an idea for a song. And she was able to generate the song and be happy enough to record it, like get the recorded version of it using AI. I actually think you're opening up things like Los Angeles Kings saying, hey, we want to redesign our new logo. Think inside the box, think outside the box. We don't give a shit. Have at it. Because now people who couldn't do this stuff before, they can be the ones who have the idea who say, I'm going to go a completely different direction with this, right? I'm going to dig into the history of LA and I'm going to create this multicultural historical logo that's simplistic and people won't know what they're looking at until it's explained to them. But once it is, they'll realize, like the Toyota symbol, most people don't realize you can actually spell the word Toyota from the Toyota logo, right? Like that's what's special about it. They think they're just looking at a bunch of bubbles. It's like, no, you can spell the word Toyota from that logo. It's stupid and abstract, but I think it's going the other way. You're opening up all this opportunity for creative minds whose parents didn't give a shit about them and never had them learn an instrument. It's like these white dudes who coach basketball, right? I always had a problem with it, but actually some of them know the game. Tactically, they understand the game well enough. So it's like, fine, the guy was never tall enough to play basketball, but that doesn't mean they can't coach it. I never went to school for branding, but I had a really good idea. And last night, AI helped me bring that idea to life. And I have been frustrated in life where I've been like, I wish I knew more about this because I have really good ideas and I want to bring them to life. Dude, how many people are going to be like empowered now with these tools to build something? I think it's a more creative world now with these tools.
So there's several parts of that. One, there's still a human being involved because AI would never generate the Toyota logo. It simply wouldn't. It's physically not capable of thinking creatively that way. So if you want to say it's a smarter, better version of Photoshop for people, maybe. I still think you are shortcutting the guy who's a coach who never was tall enough to play still put in the 10,000 hours of watching the video, watching the game, working his way up through the organization through 17 other roles and experience. He didn't cut the line and think that he was good enough to be a coach because he had the AI produce a bunch of game plans for him, right? So the problem I have is AI is being used in two ways. No, I'm not done. It's being used in two ways. It is a shortcut to rob you of the opportunity to develop the skill. You didn't have to learn music theory. You rob yourself of the opportunity to learn why that music sounds good together. You don't understand the harmonic reasons why, there's fundamental things that would make you smarter, better, a richer experience, and the AI is robbing you of that, even if you like the output of the music and the song that it creates for you. So I don't like it because you're sure. Is there a version where today, yes, you're wrong. You don't have a creative brain in the way that a lot of these arts do, and you tech bros discount the benefit that goes into it. I'm not done. I'm not done. So,
but you gotta let me answer the points. You gotta let me answer the points as you bring them, because by the time you're done, it's like I don't remember the points that I had feedback on.
Write them
like
down.
The musician one, like the musical one, is like
Uh-huh.
the classic age-old argument about those people who learnt music theory don't regard musicians who just learnt by ear as being musicians. It's like, fuck, we wouldn't have John Lennon, right? Like Paul McCartney was the one with theory and Lennon was the one who just played. Like, really, do we want to discount like people who were just naturally gifted at music because they didn't learn theory?
No one said that. I'm saying John Lennon didn't just you still had to put the time in. He still had to go and try all of the things and realize I can't play a minor chord while I'm in the middle of a major chord. Like all of the stuff might have been experiential, but you're not hearing what I'm saying. I'm not saying that you have to go to university and only people who come from Juilliard are allowed to make music. I'm saying the hours, the effort, the experience is what matters. And this is my problem with AI everywhere, is it's shortcutting. The junior developer never learns the basics, never writes the bad code and creates the bugs. We will never create a new breed of mid and senior level engineers because you're shortcutting their experience. Same thing with musicians. What you're saying is John Lennon would have just been able to, on day one, go and do the thing. No, John Lennon sat in his room with a guitar and strummed and got it wrong 95% of the time until he got it right, because the experience, he was not natural. There is no person who just picks up a thing and suddenly naturally knows how to play a G chord on the guitar. He might have listened to it. He might not have ever heard why a G chord doesn't go with an A chord, but that was experience, and you're cutting out the experience. The experience matters. So if the AI is there to help you get that experience, fine, but that's not what you guys are talking about.
That can't be a hard and fast rule, surely. If somebody creates a song who's not a musician and has no experience, and that song is enjoyable to 100 million people, what's the problem? It's music. Like 100 million people love that song. Like I don't. It just seems odd. Like it can be such a hard and fast rule that says unless you put 10,000 hours in, you can't create. That's not.
But no one says that. There's always those situations where the first time a person writes their mixtape and they play it for a record producer, and all of a sudden they go and they blow up and they become like. No one's saying that. I'm saying that the person who did that started in their garage as a high school kid and figured this kind of stuff out. It should matter that the art and the music has soul. It should matter that it was created by a person, because fundamentally the AI will only have ever regurgitated what it was. The human being who works and has the AI regurgitate 400 different versions and figures out why the good version sounds good, I guess I'm open to it, but I care that it is soulless. I care that it is a thing that was produced. I do. I'm sorry. I
No,
don't.
I know you do.
Yeah,
I
and
don't
so do a
hate
lot
that.
of people. And I think by just because this is the other thing that I have is like this giving up, this idea of like, well, people just watch YouTube slop, so the culture's fucked, so we might as well just let the culture be more fucked. And every once in a while, the creative person who could have spent time figuring it out stumbles upon their good song idea and the AI churns it out for us. That sucks. That's
What about
bad.
the
That's
kid? What about the kid who's born with no arms or legs and wants to paint? And they see beautiful images, and the only way for them to express those images are having AI generate the best version. And that kid can say, it's kind of close, but it's not what I'm looking for. It doesn't have that warm feel. Like the people sitting under the tree, like my vision's much more personal than that. What's wrong with that? Like,
because that gets into my second point, which you cut me off, and now we'll get to my second point, which is it's not being used that way. That's like arguing that we shouldn't have left Afghanistan because the poor girls we abandoned in Afghanistan, and now the Taliban is going to suddenly not let those girls learn anything. Shut the fuck up. You guys don't like that the white girls, much less the black girls and everyone here in America, learn. You misogynists in charge of the Republican Party don't want women to learn at all. So fuck you. You're not sad that we left Afghanistan because of the poor girls. Shut the fuck up. You guys, the tech bros who are in charge of making these decisions, don't think like you. They do not care about the poor armless kid who will never paint. By the way, the kid who taught himself to paint with his big toe by putting the like there's plenty of ways
no,
that
I
a
know
bunch of
there's
kids
guys
figure that
who
kind of stuff out.
defied the
So
odds and
but that's never the argument that the capitalists are using. And so the capitalists are saying, "Oh, feel bad for the poor armless kid who gets to paint." They're lying to you. They're using that sob story as the way to convince you that they're going to fire 80% of us. So, sorry, no one is allowing the ugly, Asian dude who could have been a pop star if someone had just given him the chance because he can't be a pop star while looking ugly. Although, tell that to a bunch of people. Sorry, Louis Capaldi, you're not a looker, but you're pretty fucking popular. So I'm not convinced that that's a thing. And by the way, Spotify doesn't want that. Spotify doesn't want the human in the loop. Spotify is letting an AI just churn out music slop to fill up and stop paying anyone royalties so they can make more of your money from your Spotify subscription. So no, your friend who made a song for herself, I guess, okay, cool. But that is not what the corporations are using this for. And they're tricking people like you into thinking, oh, but this girl whom I know got to make her own music. And isn't it great she got to turn her vision into reality? I guess. But that's not what it's being used for. And the fact that you guys are just like gobbling up this idea when you no, that's not what's going to happen. It's not. So, congrats on
but
being
it's happening
played by
today.
massive corporations. It's not
It's
happening
happening
today.
today. It's
Spotify is
happening
stealing all of
today.
the royalties. No, name the musician today who got a chance because they used AI to make their music. Doesn't happen.
I genuinely do. I'm insulted, by the way, because the I was watching the movie the other day. It's not the first time I've seen it, and I don't skip time to this one. It's called Mosul, and it's about the SWAT guys. It's a true story about the guys who were left behind in
Presumably Mosul, the city it's named after.
would it be no, I'm thinking it's towards the end of the war. I'm trying to think of the years because the two wars, but
Kabul versus
um
Kandahar
and when
versus.
ISIS had fled the city, these guys were cleaning up the last of ISIS, right? And there's a scene where women, daughters and stuff like that, and that bothers me. Like that one genuinely bothers me, right? Like
Sure,
so I think
but
there are conservatives like myself who are like humanitarians too, who are like, this is an opportunity. It's the same thing with the emotive headset. As soon as I saw the emotive headset, which allows you to use your brainwaves to control the machine, I was like, this is amazing because this leads to paraplegics driving. This leads to paraplegics living a different life. And then, Musk's brain chip, which is controversial. But to me, the end game there and prosthetic limbs and robotics, like, what's so bad about it?
you're conflating so many different things. So the AI that is being used to replace artists, to replace musicians, to replace creative people is not being used to help the person who is disadvantaged currently and doesn't get the opportunity. The headset that reads your brainwaves, sure, I don't see an angle where they're going to do anything with that. Robotics, sure, they're helping people who have lost limbs, but most of robotics is designed to do what Amazon announced today, which is they're going to fire 1 million people by replacing you in the warehouse with a robot who's going to do your job. So again, you can't take the specific scenarios that are beneficial to a tiny minority of people who deserve that opportunity and erase what the corporations are doing with that technology. So
But that still
you
comes
can't
back
divorce
to
those two things. Is like, okay, cool, we're helping the paraplegic, great. I don't know a situation where, I mean, I wouldn't put Elon Musk's brain chip in because with like 200 lines of code, he turned Grok into Mecha Hitler. So I think you all should be worried about Elon putting a chip in your brain. But there are absolutely scenarios where some of this technology could be used effectively, but there are no controls in place. The government isn't saying, okay, cool, help the paraplegic. You can't fire the warehouse worker and replace them with the robot. Like there are degrees. Everything is a matter of degrees.
yeah, but capitalism sort of it's a double-edged sword, right? Like the argument will always be, and I don't necessarily agree with it any more than you do. The corporations will always argue like, yeah, but we break down the door, right? Like this tech gets better and better because of us, because of the money that's you know generated through our use cases in finance and biotech and blah blah blah. I don't think there is an alternative where you get to shut down the corporations for being douchey. But then imagine telling people with disabilities or who don't have that skill set, who are creative, you have to wait because we want the wholesome version where the corporations do right by everybody. So in your lifetime, it won't happen. But in future generations, it will happen because we have to move slower. Like, I don't like that idea
No,
either.
no, because we have this model and it's shitty, but it's at least working slightly, which is pharmaceuticals. Sorry. The pharmaceutical companies waste a bunch of time so they can give dudes boners and they can figure out how to fix your restless leg syndrome, which maybe it's real and maybe it's a thing. But we have figured out a model in which you can help people but also not do anything. There is no version of the COVID vaccine that also, I don't even know what the equivalent would be, but like there is a model in which you're allowed to do the thing for the paraplegic, but you're not allowed to do it to fire all of the warehouse workers. You're allowed to do it in a way that supplements the warehouse workers. You're allowed to do it in a way like why are we not
Yeah,
treating big tech like we treat pharmaceutical
no,
companies,
no, I
which is
agree.
cool. Go waste people's money on a prescription for I shouldn't say waste your money on restless leg. I have no idea if restless leg is real. I'll need to get canceled for the endemic treatment of restless leg. But my point is, we have a model that does this that allows both to be true. So I reject the premise. I do not agree that
No,
that
no,
is
I
the
agree
case.
with you. But you're back to that imaginary world where they all just stop and suddenly become conscientious and like, oh, we should be doing this differently. Like, I don't understand which Robin Hood character you think is going to suddenly
It's
convince the corporations to do the right thing and use these models. So then in the meantime,
But
you
what's
can't just
the
stop.
of
You
course we can,
gotta.
because the alternative is they're going to fire all of us. The alternative is we're all fired and we're all fucked. So why aren't we saying that we should do this? I'm not wish casting.
Because
I'm saying why aren't we all rising up and demanding our elected officials and all
yeah, yeah, yeah.
stop shopping at Amazon. Stop shopping at Amazon. Real
Yeah.
easy.
Only at the precipice of like the end do we rise up with our pitchforks. I mean that figuratively, people. I did not tell you to get a pitchfork. I'm on a green
But
card.
why did
But
we
but
didn't need to do that. We didn't need to do that with pharmaceuticals. Pharmaceuticals is not a good industry. I'm not
well,
saying anything about pharmaceuticals
Luigi,
is good.
Luigi is
I mean,
yeah,
yeah, exactly.
yes.
And Martin Shkreli and all of those companies charging you hundreds of dollars for insulin. There's absolutely still problems in pharmaceuticals, but at least we are not. And there's problems of curing a thing has a limited revenue supply. So I'm not holding up pharmaceuticals as a good, but it is at least a version of something that is not entirely failing people who have debility. People still do the research. They still want to
Yeah.
solve the things. So I'm saying it's not a it's not a wish fulfillment scenario. We have the world that we could choose to live in, and we could advocate for that. And
But
that's going to be the problem with the
it still relies on that weakest link, which I think is the people. We talk about this all the time, right? Like when will the people rise up? I said it to somebody on the phone about a month ago. It's like I'm genuinely afraid that people are not understanding what the fudge is going on. They genuinely have no idea. Like I sat with a group of parents this weekend, lovely people, very intelligent, but it's like I'm talking about fantasy when I tell them about brainwave technology and artificial intelligence and the things that it can do. I work, in a soccer club where they still track everything in Google Sheets. Like, and it's not just little soccer clubs. I know military guys who've told me like, yeah, we use Excel to track the drone health and stuff like that. Like, yeah, we're just it's a
but
gosh darn mess, and the
people
people
like
are not
you
going to rise up.
Yeah, but people like you could help the situation by not giving the corporations an out and claiming that your friend who wants to write music at least gets to benefit from that because she doesn't. And what they're you at least could be part of the solution, not the problem, which is they don't deserve. So okay, sure, the 150 kids born without arms and legs now get to paint, I guess, but
Well, mine's more
why are we
wholesome.
lifting up why are we defending the corporations? You could choose
I'm
not to
not.
be a part of the problem.
No, I'm. There's a subtle difference here. I'm not fighting on the side of the armchair revolutionists, right? I've called it that for years, the armchair revolution. Those people who sit in their houses every day and they know it's wrong and they don't do anything about it. And I'm saying I actually am on the side of the little guys who are going to get the benefit out of it. I hate the corporation, the way they ignore where this is all going. I hate that too. I hate them for doing it. And yes, what 50% of us could lose our jobs in the next decade. I hate that too. However, shame on the people, right? What's that saying? The silence is complicit, right? You stay silent for long enough and you're part of the problem. And as long as humans sit there ignorant and don't do anything, shame on them. We kind of deserve it, right? And then the only people who rise up right now are the far right, and then you get the left doing the King's protest this weekend. Great, but I'm not super into politics, so I don't, you know. But yeah, shame on the people for just allowing this. Shame on the fact that you're a minority still.
All I'm saying is you're looking at a pile of kindling with smoke coming out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And by doing the corporation's work, by saying, yeah, but think of the poor paraplegic kid, you're pouring gasoline on the smoking pile of sticks. And I'm simply saying you personally could stop pouring gasoline by stop doing the corporation's job for them and highlighting the nonsense sob stories that are valid but not really because the corporations are never going to do that. That's the PR spin that they do to trick you into giving up and letting them fire half of us.
Yeah,
So
but
why are you carrying
let's
water for the corporations?
let's be reductive. Like somebody posted it on Twitter the other day. JD Vance was pushing back saying, "Oh, you're advocating for somebody's kids getting killed," and the argument back was only when your side of the world starts to experience the loss that our side of the world has will you change, right? It's like the weather in Texas. That belief that, well, as the global sort of climate changes and the poor rust states and the rust belt start to experience tornadoes on epic proportions, and their towns are the ones that get wiped out. Perhaps they'll turn around and say, why is this happening all of a sudden? Like, my family's been here for 200 years and we've never had weather like this. That is in my mind. I'm not it's not a positive thing to me, but I think that's how we evolve. Isn't that how we evolve? Isn't that
Shouldn't
how we've
have
always evolved?
No, and it shouldn't have to be. And in let's use the JD Vance scenario. In the scenario in which we can all well, we can all In the scenario in which you may agree that the lack of consequences for Republicans leads to the current complacency, and a person arguing, I'm not going to stop saying the things that could risk your kid's safety, would you not personally abstain from threatening kids? So just because you think that, yes, maybe finally some Republican politicians' kids facing consequences for their actions might actually move the needle, that doesn't mean you personally would advocate for harm against children. So all I'm saying is, why carry water for the corporations? You can be on board with, you can be resigned to the fact that people aren't going to rise up and this is our likely fate, and you can be sort of pessimistic about the future, but that doesn't change your personal choices. And I'm saying right now, your answer is, well, we're all kind of fucked, so I might as well just advocate for the paraplegic kid. And I'm saying advocating for the paraplegic kid is doing the work of the corporations to help us get to a bad outcome. If you wouldn't advocate for violence against JD Vance's kids, I don't know why you would advocate for, these are horrible comparisons, but why are we advocating for the positive uses of AI?
So I get your point. It's sort of a moment in time, right? Like, it's a realization that I got 30 years left at best. And I don't want to wait for the next generation when I'm not around, right? Like, I want to see the benefits of it today. So I'm not arguing on the side of corporations. I'm saying it's my compassionate side saying this person can benefit from AI. And yeah, sure, there's people who are benefiting that it's not a sub story. It's not sad. It's just that they want to write music and they do want a shortcut. They don't want to learn a guitar. They just write a song. Yeah, fine. There's levels of sort of, quality of reasons for doing these things, but yeah, I'm fighting for the little guy who gets the quality of life that they wouldn't experience normally. So I'm not trying to do the good for the corporations. I'm just pointing out, why should these people wait another 30 years for us to try to convince the corporations to do it the right way? To give them
I
a
think this just
now.
goes to like a fundamental, like, I wonder if there's a little bit of Christianity in this. I think there's a little bit of Hollywood has done this. Like the thing everyone in the movie theater cheers for is when the captain bucks the orders, risks the lives of his entire crew, risks the future of the entire war effort to go back and save the one guy. It's so important, and everyone's so happy when they do that. And it is this weird thing of like, and I genuinely like, this is, I mean, it's criticism, but I genuinely wonder how much of this is like Christianity has the one guy who died for all of us, and we're willing to talk about the situation in which we should sacrifice the one in order to, like, there's this weird thing of, in my mentality, the better movie between Olympus Has Fallen and White House Down is White House Down, because the president is willing to let the little girl die. And in Olympus Has Fallen, the president caves to the terrorists to save one person's life. And it's one of those things of like, yeah, it sucks that I'm in the situation that I have to choose half of all of us still having jobs in 10 years, or the paraplegic kid having to wait a while for technology to finally be in a good enough position. Sorry, yeah, it sucks. If I was the person in control, I'd pick all of us over the paraplegic kid. It sucks. It's not a good thing to say, but it's true.
Yeah. So it's not a religious thing for me. It's not in that sense for me. It goes back to the conversation about languages, right? Like, the paraplegic kid's mind doesn't work the same way mine does, right? Like, and out there somewhere is the kid who can't talk, they're mute, they're unable to verbalize the ideas that they see. They don't even have the capacity to understand that what they're seeing is brilliant. And it's putting a tool into the hands of people like that and saying, yeah, like, maybe you're the next Einstein and we shouldn't miss that opportunity
Yeah.
because there wasn't a vehicle for you to deliver your message in.
There's a really good letter that an autistic kid wrote to, I think, RFK Jr., basically saying the way you're categorizing autistic kids is fucking horrifying nonsense. I'm nonverbal, and until I figured out how to write, It turns out I'm just as smart as all of you. I've been sitting here listening to all of you treat me like I'm not. And once I figured out how to write, I was able to show you my brain works just like yours. I just can't verbalize it. And he wrote this amazing letter to the Trump administration. So, yes, I think all of that is true. But
Yeah.
no, so nope. I don't care. Sorry. I'm good. Like, yeah, of
Well,
course it is.
but yeah, yeah,
Because, no,
yeah.
no, no. Because you guys also don't care. Currently today, there is a poor kid in West Virginia who's white. There's a poor girl in Georgia who is black. There are plenty of kids who do not get the private education to have them get the opportunity to go to Harvard and become the next great Supreme Court justice, become the next great chemist, become the next great whatever. So we've already made this choice. Our society
No,
has
no, no,
already made
no.
the choice that we don't get to
But it's
find the next
unfair.
Einstein.
But it's unfair to place me, right? Because I don't get to choose the kids in the like. Yeah, you know me. I've said it before. I would love to go back and teach. Like if I could afford to go back and teach, and it doesn't have to be the paraplegic kid or the autistic kid. It could be in my community, the poor areas. Like they're the ones that I think of when I'm like, I'd love to go back and teach. So I'm not the one who's necessarily putting these tools into the kids' hands, but that's my point. That reinforces my point. How many, I always say this, you look at the 7-Eleven, those kids are hanging out at the 7-Eleven, and the kid who's leading the group, fucking leader. A leader's a leader, right? Like, they're probably to no good and they're leading other kids astray, but other kids find them charismatic and will follow them. If we could rescue them and bring them back into the fold and turn them into functioning human beings that could lead in society, and there's plenty of kids who are poor in West Virginia, South Florida, and da. Yes, all of them too. Like all of them too should be coming along for the ride, and we should be listening to the ideas that they're coming up with, whether they understand physics or not. I was asking whether size affected time when I was 7 year old. Like, put these tools in the hands of kids and let's see who's brilliant out there. I'm advocating for all of that. And this is how somebody like me can fuck the corporations and say no to hell with the corporations and decide, like, I'm going to find another way to provide this wheelchair affordably to these people. It's like those guys who go around like third world countries and they take like a soda bottle and they cut a hole in the roof and they put the plastic bottle in, realizing like the fragmented lights the shack home, right? Like there's innovators out there who will find ethical ways to deliver to people who need it. It's not necessarily just a paraplegic kid using the AI. It's also inventors, liberal inventors like yourself, maybe, who can now bypass those corporations and say, no, I can make wheelchairs. I don't need FDA approval to give a wheelchair. Like, we'll call it something else, then we'll call it go-kart for kids with disabilities, right? Now we
Which
can compete with the corporations and offer a product that is not in their wheelhouse because they can't, make billions of dollars out of it. Isn't that the opportunity now, the level playing field?
Which brings me to the original point of Google Notebook, which is I am concerned that no one in charge of doing this wants that outcome because it would challenge the 4 billionaires who own everything. And so my point is I am open to the idea of ethical AI in a world in which I am supplementing human creativity. And a thing like Google Notebook, a version of Google Notebook that runs on the DeepSeek models that cost 5% of the electricity. There are plenty of versions of this which supplements that human creator and helps them go and figure out what is the next thing that they're going to work on and do it faster and do all of that. And my whole point this entire episode has been not a single person involved today in the corporations are trying to do that. So you and I can go start the ethical AI company that offers a bunch of these things to allow the humans in the loop to participate and still use their creativity. My point is Spotify doesn't want humans. All of the companies, all of the heads of all of the Hollywood studios who are going after AI don't want humans. All of these companies are trying to take the human out of the loop. Amazon firing half of its warehouse workforce to replace them with robots. don't want humans. So all I'm saying is let there be a world where the humans still get to be involved and benefit from this, but that's not the trajectory we're on.
Do you have Spotify? Do you use it? Do you have a
Nope.
subscription?
I got rid of it when they gave Joe Rogan $500 million.
Right, so there was a breaking point, right? But there's
Yeah.
probably still some services that you're using. You can't escape them, right?
Now that's so yes, there is no ethical consumption under capitalism, but I can do my best. And I do my best. I don't shop on Amazon
Well, I did
anymore.
pretty good.
I don't have Alexa on any of these things. So that's all I'm saying is everyone can do.
I got Alexa all throughout the house.
No, I am unfortunately consolidated on Google. I picked my poison, and it's the one corporation that I've got because I've got the Pixel
Google.
phone. Yeah,
After
I'm not
all
saying
of
there's
that,
not. This is what I'm
you
saying.
Google guy.
This is what I'm saying is there is no way to exist in this world without being a little bit hypocritical. But you can make individual choices, and I question your individual choices.
Well, I'm glad after all of this, you've come around to seeing it my way. That's all I can say.
Zero. That is a 100% incorrect sentence. Ask Gemini to re-synthesize the conversation. All right. Anyways, back on Google Notebook. I think there is an interesting version of this product that could run ethically, could allow the human to be in the loop, could make a good teacher better, could support the idea of people learn differently. I just don't think Google Notebook is that product. I think it's half a good idea implemented. I have so many product managers at Google that I want to yell at. Google Meet is terrible. Google Chat has issues. I need all of the product managers at Google to come talk to me because they're wrong about a bunch of things. I do. There's a hint of a good idea inside Google Notebook and Google Notebook LM, and I don't know. I want to understand the choices that went into this thing because it feels half-baked.
But isn't that like the iPhone version 1? Looking back at it now is like, man, it was missing all this shit, right? Like people like you are going to use version 1 of Google Notebook LM and it will get better from the feedback that you provide to Google to create a better product.
Sure, possibly. I see no evidence of that from anything in the industry, but sure, we can wishcast a better future for Google Notebook, but everything I see is that they're hoping that you don't want to, that you're hoping that you're just going to swallow the 80% correct, 20% wrong video. And that's my concern is like the right people aren't involved in these product life cycles to inject the human. They're just being like, well, Spotify's going to replace the musician. We're going to replace the teacher. And no, that's bad. I want you to supplement these people. Cue the boppy music.
AI generated. Excellent.
God. No.